got defending you?
Chester Gaddis, member of the bar in 5 states, hasn't lost a murder one case yet.
There's something I want you to find out about him.
How much he charges?
Yeah.
Veteran actress Nancy Stafford has come a long way since her days as Ben Matlock's legal secretary on the hit primetime series Matlock and the host of the popular TV show Main Floor. In addition to her appearances on such notable TV shows as ER and Judging Amy, Nancy's been busy traveling the country as a speaker and an author. Good to see you again. Good to have you on the
Jerry.
program.
It's always great to see you.
First thing, right out of the box, I want to talk about your book. The book is entitled The Wonder of His Love. It's a devotion book. What brought this about?
It's subtitled A Journey into the Heart of God. And I think it comes out of a desperate need on my part to journey into God's heart and to really get established securely, kind of once and for all, in who God is and who I am because of Him. Because I think, like so many of your viewers, I've spent way too much of my life feeling confident and secure in my identity based on what I do, what I have, what I may look like, how well I please the people around me, and how I think I'm pleasing God, having to earn His love. Yeah. And I think we are starved for wonder. We're starved to know God's love in our lives. And so it really is, it's sort of 31 very personal reflections on the different aspects of God's character and His faithful love in our lives. And it comes out of a place of just my own need.
I want to go around a corner here, and I want to come back to that because I want to establish something here that I think is important in this book. You just said you spent a lot of your time really pleasing other people because you chose a career. You were a model. Yep. And then you became an actress, and for all these years, Nancy Stafford has been defined by the public, by the general public, as a very successful, well-known actress. But all of that depended on the subjective decisions of other people. Yep. Going to auditions, a producer, for whatever reason, deciding, yes, I want you to be a part of this show or this series, and very successful in that. But it was always somebody else's subjective decision, your talent, but at the same time, there were other talented people.
Oh, yeah.
So pleasing people has always been a very, very important part of what you did. Yeah. Does that have its own kind of stresses, and is there a tendency to get lost in that at times?
Yeah, totally. Not only pleasing people, but a performance orientation, so that not only am I just having to please everybody and put on the nice face, which frankly, even those of us in the church can understand putting on the nice face and pleasing everybody around us. But also, you're right, feeling like I've got to earn this role. Auditions are not just handed to you, you've got to earn it. You've got to have enough equity in the industry to be tapped for this particular project. And feeling like you've always you're never quite measuring up. Every time you go into an audition, every day of your life as an actor is rife with rejection. And I already, as a young girl, my first book was about overcoming sense of insecurity and inadequacies, really based on a warped self-perception I had because of rejection and ridicule as a little girl growing up.
And then you go into a business.
I go into the industry, am I nuts?
You go into the industry where probably 50-60% of it is rejection?
85% is rejection.
It's incredible.
So I was like drawn to, like shark to blood, huh? I must have been crazy. So yes, absolutely. So much of my world has been revolved around feeling like I never could quite measure up and having to earn everything and perform in order to feel successful.
And were those same kinds of stresses even as a Christian?
To some degree, but not so much. I was a prodigal for many years. I grew up in the church, then was a prodigal for 15 as I started in the business. When I came back to the Lord is when a radical healing and transformation began to take place. But it took a number of years for me to feel like I have finally gotten it. I finally have gotten the freedom and the absolute unconditional acceptance and kindness and love of the Father. But it took a long, long time. And I still kind of slide back into my feeling like I need to always measure up, and am I good enough right now, instead of, Paul to the Romans always talked about how, law does not lead us to change. Love leads us to change.
What kind of transformation, I guess is a better word, that caused that change from that person you were to the person that you are still becoming?
It was a transferal of lies that I'd believed about me, transferred to truth of who Jesus says I am because of him.
Wow.
It all had to do with transforming my mind, renewing my mind and being transformed in him. And little by little, it was one bit of baggage after the other as I allowed him into sort of those deep hidden places that some of them, frankly, I didn't even know I had. But lies like, I'm worthless.
Well, that's interesting you're saying that, because there are people watching the program today who would say, wait a minute, I can think that about myself because I've never really had much success. But almost saying, you don't have a right to have those feelings, Nancy Stafford, because you've been so successful. It's obvious your worth is out there in front of you because you've been in television series. Millions of people have seen you on television. You did 250 commercials, and wow, if I could just do that, I would feel very worthwhile.
But see, that's the biggest lie of all that we buy into. And that is why the most successful, beautiful actresses I've ever known and cared about and were friends with are usually the most insecure and self-loathing. Because any of our security, and you've known it with men who are highly successful corporate giants, if we allow the trappings of the world, and if we allow our position in society, or our appearance, or our success, or what it is we have to tell us that we're significant, or we do have acceptance and approval and value and worth, we are always going to be made to feel shaky, because what's going to happen as soon as we lose them?
But most of us do that.
I know we do, even as
We're
Christians.
identified, men ask men, what do you do? It's rare in the corporate world that I would ever be asked, how are you doing as a father?
Yeah.
How are you doing as a husband? How are you doing as a human being?
Right.
It's always, what do you do?
Right. How's your relationship with the Lord? Exactly, always defined. And until we get to the place, I think, which is what my first book was based on, and now this is all the same need of my heart, and I know it's the need of readers and of viewers everywhere, is to be, without a shadow of a doubt, be unshakably secure in our position and acceptance and security in Christ. And the only way we get there is for him to begin to replace our need to get it outside of who we are, and finally begin to get it from who he is. And that becomes where scriptures will start to fly off the page. And that's what all these characters of Christ and scriptures that will transform and change us. That we are accepted in the beloved, he says. That you are a new creation. You are not who you were. You are Christ in you. And you have the mind of Christ, and you have a hope and a future. It's those scriptures of truth that have begun to transform me. And I know they'll transform other people. I then suddenly began to say, Lord, where are you in the midst of all this? Do you really love me? If you love me, how could you allow these painful things to happen to me?